Yes, mate, how's it going? My name's Lee, and welcome back to the FPL Punk YouTube channel, where we try to dominate FPL one game week at a time. So today, I want to look at some budget midfielders, and I've picked out a total of 8. 4 are priced at 5 million, and the other 4 are valued at 5.5 million. To afford the likes of Haaland and Salah, as well as have a good balance to your team for game week 1, I think at least one of these players may need to be considered. I've currently got 2 right now, and I think my team's looking pretty sick, not going to lie. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe down below for more FPL content. Anyway, let's rock and roll. Be strong. Right, mates, first up we've got Amad Diallo, 5 million midfielder for Man United, currently owned by 3.1%. His stats last season aren't a great read, but he was struggling with a lot of injuries last season. He only made 9 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist. Some of his key stats, there's a couple that do stand out. He does like to get shots away, and he does he is quite creative. He's a very technical winger. Doesn't beat his man very often, but he likes to shift onto his left foot. Either whip a ball in, whip a shot in. He's a little bit more unpredictable than Anthony, and that he has got more to his game than just cutting inside and shooting. He does like to whip a ball into the back post as well, and he can sometimes go down the line. So he's a little bit more creative than Anthony, in my opinion. Some of his stats last season, he got 2.32 shots and 2.32 key passes per 90. He actually didn't play that many minutes last season. I think it only came to about 300 minutes or so. And like I said, that was just down to injury more than anything else. But in that time, he did manage to create 0.23 big chances per 90, and XG of 0.12 and XA of 0.03. He still managed to get 5.34 points per 90. Like I said, a lot of those did come from the bench when teams might have been a little bit tired, a little bit weaker, and he might have got some kind of returns that way. So take it with a little bit pinch of salt with how that's kind of shaping up. But some of his expected points and Man United's fixtures for the first 6 are down below. Fulham in game week 1, he is predicted to get 3.9 points in that game. At Brighton away, 3.6, and Liverpool 3.7. I expect him to start maybe 2 of these, at least a minimum of 1. I think he'll definitely start against Fulham. Things almost nailed on. The fans want it. He's playing pretty well. And I think he's almost nailed to start that Fulham game. I'm not sure about Liverpool, and Brighton's probably 50-50. It all depends on whether Garnacho's back. I think as soon as Garnacho is back, he's going to come straight into the lineup. You can see his expected points from game week 4 to game week 6 massively reduces to 1.6, 0.5, and 0.5. And this is just because I don't think he's going to get the minutes moving forward. But definitely for a short-term option, if you're thinking of wildcarding around game week 4, I think Amad Diallo is a pretty solid option. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we've got Oscar Bobb, 5 million midfielder for Man City, currently owned by 1.7%. He did play in the Community Shield against Man United yesterday and did get an assist. I think his ownership will steadily rise as a result of that. He made 14 appearances last season with 12 off the bench, 1 goal, 2 assists. He's got a little bit more minutes than Amad, but obviously City's team is so good that he is limited to the amount of minutes he can get. His key stats per 90 at 1.22 shots per 90, 2.75 key passes, 0.61 big chances received and created, and he's got an XG of 0.46 and an XA of 0.34. He has got an absolute whopping 9.15 points per 90, which is like he's not going to maintain it just because he's played so few minutes. And he's done something within those so few minutes that his points per 90 has just gone through the absolute roof. His fixtures down below: Chelsea away in game week 1. He's predicted to get 3 points in that, so the algorithms do think he is going to start. I'm not so convinced. I think Ipswich in game week 2 at home is probably where he might start out of these. West Ham away, Brentford at home, Arsenal at home, and Newcastle away do make up the first 6 fixtures. I think he's an even shorter term option as opposed to Amad. I think he's going to get minutes against Chelsea. I think he'll start against Ipswich, and then his minutes will get massively reduced from that point moving forward when they do start getting all these players back. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne has not played a lot of preseason. Phil Foden's not played a lot of preseason. Jack Grealish is out injured, so once he comes back, he's going to get minutes as well. They've bought Savio, they've got Doku, they've got a lot of options that can play out wide. I think from game week 3 onwards, I think his minutes will get reduced. So as long as you're keeping him for that short term and you're not relying on him to be this kind of continuous supply of not even just chances and goals and assists, but just kind of getting on the pitch and getting minutes, I don't think Oscar Bobb might not be the man. Not right now anyway. If he performs well in these first 3 or 4 games, then he might keep his spot later on into the season. Definitely one to keep an eye on. But for me right now, he's definitely much a short-term option. Next up, we've got Morgan Rogers, 5 million midfielder for Aston Villa. Only 8% owned. I think people slowly cottoning on to how good this kid is and how short of minutes that he might be, especially in the beginning part of the season. Made 11 appearances last season, 3 off the bench, 3 goals, 1 assist. He's got some decent stats per 90, and because he's played a lot more minutes than the likes of Ahmad and Oscar Bobb, his stats probably a bit more reflective of what we can kind of expect moving forward. 1.55 shots per 90, 1.27 key passes, 0.14 big chances received and created. He's got an XG of 0.19 and an XA of 0.05. Points per 90 is 4.92. Not bad, about 5 points per game if he keeps it on for the full course of the season. You're looking at maybe like 180, 190 point player. I don't see him kind of hitting that over the course of the season. We'll kind of see how it goes. Not many players do play 38 games in a full season. I think if you can maybe play 30 games and maybe get, I don't know, 8 to 10 goals, 8 to 10 assists, I think this could be really, really good value at the 5 million mark. Got a decent set of fixtures. I think the first two are harder than people think. I think people are writing off West Ham. I think they've done some great business so far. Lopetegui is a really good manager, a very defensive manager. I don't think they'll concede a lot of chances. I don't think they'll concede a lot of goals. Going away to West Ham in the first game of the season, I think it's going to be really, really tough. People, I've got this down as an easy game or like a green fixture. Like for me, like it's not that. I think they'll be a really good team. Like I said, I think they've done some really good business in there, and I think they'll surprise a lot of people. I think from game week 3 onwards, we might be looking at even some West Ham assets as well. But right now, Morgan Rogers, 5 million midfielder. I think for what you're kind of going to get out of him, if you're going to keep him for the medium to long term, Morgan Rogers might be a man. If you're looking to wildcard early, you might want to look elsewhere, in my opinion, because you're probably not going to play him in game week 1 or game week 2. So you're looking at a game week 3 fixture out away to Leicester, where you might be able to get some returns from Morgan Rogers. You can see from his points return underneath the fixtures, like he's getting around 3.2 to 3.7 points per game. It's not bad, especially for a 5 million midfielder. I think he's almost nailed to play left wing, this kind of like left wing attacking mid position, with Liam Bailey on the other side and Ollie Watkins up front, with probably John McGinn, Tielemans, and Andre / Amadou Onana just in behind. But particularly from game week 3 to game week 6, I think they've got quite a nice one. If you're looking to wildcard him on game week 3, game week 4, Morgan Rogers would definitely be on your radar. But starting with him, I'm not too sure. On to our last 5 million midfielder, Brentford midfielder, Fabio Carvalho. Bit of a weird one, 1.7% owned right now. And it's a weird one because he's just made the move from Liverpool to Brentford for about 25-30 million or so. And he's so hard to kind of gauge because we don't know anything about him really, other than his like championship and some of his performances abroad in some of the foreign leagues. Some of his stats last season from the championship: 20 appearances, 9 goals, 2 assists. If he can replicate anything like that in the Premier League, you'd be very, very happy for a 5 million midfielder. I couldn't get all his stats just because of the championship. I could try to find them. I found some stats on FBref. He got 1.9 shots per 90 and 2 key passes with an XG of 0.26 and an XA of 0.15 XA per 90. I can't really give him any kind of predicted points for his opening fixtures playing for Brentford, but someone like Shada, who might play on the left wing, kind of averages between 3 and 4 points per game. Kind of similar to what we've kind of got with Morgan Rogers. I think and Fabio Carvalho, he's going to be in and around that kind of range. I think his ownership will be lower just because his transfer has only just gone through. So if you're looking for a more of a differential option, then you might go for someone like Fabio Carvalho. The only issue Carvalho has got is that his fixtures, in my opinion, are particularly difficult in that opening 6. At home to Palace, a lot of people have got this down as an easy game. I think it's going to be a really tough game, like we all saw what Glasner did at the back end of last season. I think it's going to be a really tough game for Brentford. I can see Palace scoring in this game anyway. Game week 2, away to Liverpool, back to his old club. And then you've only really got game week 3, home to Southampton, where they might be able to do something. But Southampton are very, very good at keeping the ball. I think they averaged something like 68 to 70% possession on average last season. Brentford are known to not keep the ball particularly well, and they like to kind of hit people on the counter-attack. Whether this is going to play in someone like Fabio Carvalho, not entirely sure. We don't know if he's going to play left wing, attacking mid. I think he might even get deployed as a number 9 at times as well, especially if they do play with 2 up front, like, which is something Brentford do like to do sometimes. I think Carvalho might be one of those striker options, probably up front with something like a Whistle or something like that. And then from game week 4 to game week 6, Man City away, Spurs away, West Ham at home, really, really tough games. Overall, I think once they kind of get out of this period and the fixtures kind of get a bit more favourable, we might start looking at Carvalho. But as an early game, or as between the game weeks 1 and 6, probably not a great option for me right now. Definitely on the radar, definitely someone I'm going to think about, I'm going to keep in the back of my mind, but really interesting to see how he plays, where he plays, how they kind of deploy him, whether it's going to be left wing, attacking mid, striker. Be really interesting to see how he's getting. Really like him as a player. When he played for Fulham in the Championship, he absolutely tore it up. It'll be really interesting to see how he does get on. But Fabio Carvalho, probably not someone I'm going to bring in right now, but definitely keep your eye on him. This is a quick overview of the 5 million midfielders. We've got Ahmad, Oscar Bobb, Morgan Rogers, and Fabio Carvalho. We've got the fixtures on the left-hand side with my predictions of whether they're going to start or get benched. So Amad Diallo, I think he'll start against Fulham, but I think he'll get benched against Brighton and Liverpool. Oscar Bobb, I think he'll get benched against Chelsea, start against Ipswich, bench against West Ham. Morgan Rogers, start all three. Fabio Carvalho, probably start all three. I think he might get benched against Liverpool if they want to deploy a different system. I think they're all decent options. In the next column, we've got expected points for the first 3 games, and these are from Fantasy Football Hub. Amad Diallo comes out on top, and with this, with 11.2 points. With that, but that's assuming that he starts every single game. I don't think he's going to start all 3 of those games. I think he's only going to start against Fulham. As a result, I think his expected points will drop once that is taken into account. Morgan Rogers only 9.8 points for the first 3 games. I think it's probably a little bit undervalued or underappreciated. I think he'll probably do better than that. I'm looking around Amad Diallo levels of 11 points, 12 points. I think he's in and around that kind of bracket. The next column, the preseason data. Amad Diallo's got 2 goals and 1 assist. Oscar Bobb, 2 goals and 3 assists. And he's played the most minutes for Man City in pre-season so far. He's actually made 4 starts and has completed 90 minutes twice. He started in the Community Shield against Man United yesterday. Morgan Rogers, 3 goals and 2 assists. And the joint most minutes for Villa in pre-season. And he's predicted to start, and people do expect him to start. Fabio Carvalho's got 2 goals for Liverpool in pre-season. And he's got the joint most pre-season minutes for Liverpool, and I like him because he is very versatile. He can play anywhere in that forward line, in my opinion, and they've got the rank on the right-hand side. I think Morgan Rogers is the best 5 million midfielder. I think Fabio Carvalho is a close second, and I've kind of gone joint third with Ahmad and Oscar Bobb, just because I think they're so short-term options, and they're so unpredictable, and there's just a massive rotation risk of whether they are going to start. I can't kind of separate them from that point of view. I don't see them playing starting any more than 1 within the first 3 games, and that's the reason why I have put them third. But for me, Morgan Rogers is the best 5 million midfielder. Let's move on to some 5.5 million midfielders where I think there's some better value. So the first 5.5 midfielder that I've selected is Yankuba Minteh for Brighton. 1% owned. He's made the move from Newcastle to Brighton. He was on loan last season in the Eredivisie, playing for Feyenoord. Made 27 appearances. Came off the bench 10 times, so he made 17 starts. In those 17 starts, he got 10 goals and 5 assists. So it's nearly a goal return every single start. His key stats per 90, it does get 3.46 shots per 90, 1.67 key passes. I couldn't find his big chances received or created, but he did get an XG of 0.6 and an XA of 0.27. There's no points per 90 just because he didn't play in the Premier League, he didn't play in FPL. And these stats were acquired via FBref, which is a really good site. If you've not heard of it, go check it out. So at the bottom, we've got his fixtures and his expected points. And I think they've got quite a rough opening from kind of game week 4 onwards. I think it does get a little bit better from game week 1 away to Everton. I think they'll be really tight. I think it'll be a really tough game for Brighton. But he could exploit that. Like he tends to play on the right side. Like if they're playing Mikalenko, who's not particularly quick. And Minteh is a very direct, very quick, very powerful runner. And he might be able to exploit that space. He is predicted to get 3.9 points during that first game. Man United at home. Depending on who we've got playing that, like in the left back, right? We don't have a fit left back right now. Luke Shaw is still, I don't know, he's not match fit. Last year we don't know where he is. We might play Lisandro Martinez left back and maybe go De Ligt centre back with any of the other ones that we've got, whether that's Harry Maguire or Johnny Evans or something like that. So he might get some joy against us, to be honest. And we have struggled on and off with Brighton in the past. Like they have got some favourable results against us. In game week 3, they've got Arsenal away, really tough game. I think 3.5 points is probably optimistic. I think probably around the 2 mark would be a little bit realistic. From game week 4, kind of onwards from there, Ipswich at home, and Forest at home and then Chelsea away. I think these are really good games for someone like a Yankuba Minteh who's very quick, very direct, and can kind of get at his defenders. I think all three of those games, he might be able to get something from it. So if you're looking for a kind of medium to long-term option, Yankuba Minteh might be a good option, to be honest with you. But if you are someone like me who's looking to wildcard very early, around game week 4, I'm probably not going to look at someone like Minteh. I think there might be some better options out there, and let's move on to a different one who I think might be a better option. On to the next 5.5 midfielder, and yeah, we're back here again, Ben Brereton Diaz, 0.6% owned, now playing for Southampton. His stats last season, he made 14 appearances for Sheffield United, 6 goals, 1 assist. Very respectable for the calibre of team that Sheffield United was. They didn't make a lot of chances, didn't score a lot of goals. So for him to maybe get a 1 in 2 goal involvement return for a relegation team, I think it's quite impressive, to be honest with you, and definitely someone who's on my radar right now. With his key stats per 90, 2.84 shots per 90, 0.65 key passes per 90, big chances received 0.81 and 0.24 big chances created, an XG of 0.45, an XA of 0.09 with 5.03 points per 90 on average. They do have a pretty rough kind of start, but what I like about Ben Brereton Diaz is that he's going to start, and I think he's 100% nailed to start. He's probably going to play up front as a number 9. I think Southampton are going to play 2 up front, and with the way Southampton play, I think it's going to suit the way Brereton Diaz plays. He's not particularly quick, he's got good movement, he's a good finisher, and because of the way Southampton play, they dominate the ball, they push right up, and they really try and squeeze teams in. I think that might suit Brereton Diaz's style. I can see him maybe getting between something like 10 and 15 Premier League goals over the course of the season. I think he might be on penalties as well. I'll have to look into that. Like, I'm not 100% sure who the Southampton penalty taker is, but Brereton Diaz has taken them in the past, and he is the number 9, he is the striker. Like, he might take ownership of those. If that's the case, we've got a 5.5 million midfielder playing up front. He's going to get clean sheet points if they do keep clean sheets, taking penalties as well. Game week 1, they've got Newcastle away, but he's predicted to get 4.5 points within that, which is the highest that we've seen so far. Just really like him as an option. I think this is a tough game, but I think Newcastle might concede, and if anyone's going to get involved, I think Brereton Diaz might be the man. Game week 2 at home to Nottingham Forest, and a very respectable 5.1 points predicted for that game. It's a really good game. Forest don't keep the ball particularly well. I think Southampton will push right up, squeeze them right in. I think I can even see them keeping a clean sheet, and Brereton Diaz getting some kind of goal return in that game. Game week 3 away to Brentford, 4.6 predicted points. Man United, like, unbelievably, is predicted to get more points at home to Man United of 5.1 than he is away to Bournemouth, away to Brentford, and away to Newcastle. So it might work that one out. I guess we'll kind of say that. Maybe that's me with my red tinted glasses with my biased opinion, but I think we're going to crush them. That's all I'm going to say. But we are prone to conceding goals. We are prone to conceding chances, and Brereton Diaz could easily be on the end of something like that. So it's not out the realms of possibility. Ipswich in game week 5 and Bournemouth away in game week 6. I think Brereton Diaz is like not only a good short-term option for someone like me who's looking to wildcard in game week 4, I think he's a good medium to long-term option as well. I think he will continually tick away and steadily get goals and returns throughout the course of the season. I mean, I look at his returns last season of 6 goals in 14 appearances. Even if you take that to 28 appearances and he gets about 12 goals, I think Southampton are a better team than Sheffield United. They're a lot more open, but they keep the ball very well and very, very well. And I think their style will suit Brereton Diaz down to the ground, and I think he'll score a good amount of goals for them, to be honest. So definitely on my radar. Really like him as an option. If you haven't thought about Ben Brereton Diaz, I mean, like, he's only owned by 0.6%, so not a lot of people have a little think. He might be the man. Moving on to another interesting 5.5 million midfielder, Callum Hudson-Odoi. 5.1% owned right now, plays for Nottingham Forest. Made 29 appearances last season with 5 coming off the bench. He made 20 starts, 8 goals, 2 assists. Some of his key stats per 90 last season of 1.84 shots per 90, 1.75 key passes, big chances received of 0.15. So you can see, like, he doesn't get heavily involved in kind of the shot end of things. Like, even though, like, he managed to get 8 goals, some of those really good goals as well. So his probably XG is probably a little bit lower than you'd expect. Big chances kind of evolve. I think it's not an XG of 0.3 or higher is considered what's considered a big chance and what isn't. big chances created of 0.19. He only got 2 assists last season. I think he could do a little better from that point of view. If Hudson-Odoi could maybe have similar stats to last season, keep his 8 to 10 goals and his assist, like improve and go to 8 to 10 as well, I think it could be a very productive season for someone like Callum Hudson-Odoi, especially at the 5.5 million mark. On average, he got 5.29 points per 90. His first 3 games are very, very good. Game week 1, Bournemouth at home, predicted to get 4.4 points within that game. I can see him getting something within that game. Game week 2, we spoke about Ben Brereton Diaz from the other side. They are a promoted team. They have got championship level players. Could Callum Hudson-Odoi expose that Southampton defence, try and hit them on the break? So I don't think Forest will have a lot of the ball. Maybe. Might be the man to go for. Wolves in game week 3, 4.5 expected points. I think Wolves are going to be a good team this season as well. I think people disrespected them quite a lot. Game week 4, Liverpool away. Game week 5, Brighton away, and Fulham in game week 6 at home. So I think if you are looking for that early wild card and you're only going to focus on those first 3 or 4 games, Hudson-Odoi might be the man to go for you. He was definitely in my first draft, but whether he's going to be moving forward, I'm not too sure. I've got 2 5.5 million midfielders. Callum Hudson-Odoi was one of them, but I really want Ben Brereton Diaz, and whether Hudson-Odoi is the man to go down for that and Brereton Diaz to take his place, not sure, but definitely on my radar, and he's looked pretty good in pre-season as well, so definitely think about him if you haven't already. Our last 5.5 million midfielder is Emile Smith-Rowe. Made the move from Arsenal to Fulham for a ridiculous fee, in my opinion, 27 million plus 7 in add-ons. I think Arsenal have done very, very well to get that price for a very, very injury-prone player. Only owned by 7.7% right now. I think he's a really solid option, and this is the other 5.5 million midfielder in my team right now. I've got Smith-Rowe and Hudson-Odoi, but I do really want Ben Brereton Diaz. His stats last season don't look very good. He made 13 appearances, 10 off the bench. He only made 3 starts with 2 assists and no goals in there. But some of his key stats per 90 do look pretty good. 3.9 shots, 2.32 key passes, 0.26 big chances received, no big chances created. Next year have 0.48 and next year have 0.1 with points per 90 of 6.5, which is pretty good. But he's not. He didn't make a lot of. He didn't play a lot last season. He didn't rack up a lot of minutes last season. So some of these stats, some of these points per 90 stats are a little bit skewed. I love him as a player. I think he's so good. But the big thing is always and always will be his injury record. If he can stay fit, he's an unbelievable player. He hasn't played a full season for about 3 years, and 3 years ago he got about, I think he made 30 appearances for Arsenal and got 10 goals. If we can get something along those lines, I think we're on to an absolute winner. I think he's almost nailed to play in that number 10 spot, but he could play left wing as well. He's a very versatile player, very creative player, got an eye for a goal. He's just a really good player, and I just hope for his sake and Fulham's sake that he can stay fit. He might be too risky to go for so early on, but if you do kind of fancy it, like I have so far, he might be the man to go for. They've got a very, very good stretch of 6 games, Fulham in my opinion. Game week 1 away to Man United. I think this is a good game for them. We've got a lot of injuries in defence. I think we will start the season relatively slow, which is what we've done under Ten Hag in the past. Whether Smith-Rowe could capitalise on that, he might do. Predicted to get 4.1 points in that game week 1 away to Man United, and then game week 2, game week 3, game week 4 just looked nice. At home to Leicester, away to Ipswich, at home to West Ham. These are all winnable games for Fulham, and if Fulham manage to get Smith-Rowe at the centre of everything that they do, he's going to be heavily involved in goals and assists throughout the season, and those goals and those goal returns could easily come against the likes of Leicester, Ipswich and West Ham. I don't even mind Newcastle at home in game week 5. Like Newcastle have proved over the past couple of seasons, Newcastle are a great home team, but they're not like they're nowhere near as good away. Like they're definitely beatable away from home, which is the reason why I don't mind this game. That's the reason why it's not it's not a difficult, like it's not a red fixture in my opinion. Game week 6 away to Forest. I think if you're looking for a longer term option, we've seen some very short term options so far. I think if you're looking for a longer term option, I think Emile Smith-Rowe might be the man to go for. Definitely someone who's on my radar, and if I don't own him from game week 1 to game week 3 and I'm going to wild card in game week 4, I'm probably going to pick him up in game week 4 because I've got the information I need from those first 3 games. But it might be better just to start with him. You're playing 2 of the promoted teams, you're playing a weakened Man United team. if Fulham can start the season well and they can hit the ground running, and Smith Rowe gets heavily involved, like he's already scored 2 goals in pre-season for Fulham, this might be the good, like a good spot for him. Like it might be a good situation for him. Definitely on my radar. If you've not thought about him, start thinking about him because I think he's going to take over. Right, mates, this last graphic is just an overview of the 5.5 million mids that's spoken about previously. So on the left, we've got the fixtures, and for all 4 players, I think they're going to start in every single one of these first 3 game weeks. So Minteh, I think he'll start in all 3 of those. Ben Brereton Diaz, I think he'll start in all of those. The next column is the expected points, and this is brought from Fantasy Football Hub. They do expect Ben Brereton Diaz to get 14.2 points, which is the highest out of all of these. The next column is the pre-season data. So Yankuba Minteh has got 3 goals and 2 assists. Ben Brereton Diaz has only made the move to Southampton, so he's only got 1 goal for Southampton in pre-season. Hudson-Odoi, 1 goal, 3 assists, and Smith Rowe, 3 goals in total. Some additional kind of comments. I like Minteh and I love him as a player. I think he's going to be very, very good and very explosive for Brighton. But those first 3 games, in my opinion, are just bad and they're just rough. But from game week 4 onwards, it doesn't look bad at all. Ben Brereton Diaz, I think he's going to start, and I think he's potentially on penalties, and that's the reason why I've currently got him ranked as number 1. Hudson-Odoi. What I like about Hudson-Odoi, which the other players don't really have, is that he played a full season in the Premier League and he had a fairly productive full season. Made 20 starts, 29 including bench appearances, 8 goals, 2 assists. Very, very respectable season, and hopefully he can build on that, be in the same environment, same team, kind of knows what to kind of work on from there. Smith Rowe, the last time he's fully fit, like I mentioned, he scored 10 league goals, and that's going to be the massive issue. Whether we want to start with him to see how his fitness is, we don't really know what's going to happen with him. I've still got him as second in the ranking order. Before Brereton Diaz joined Southampton, I had Hudson-Odoi and Smith Rowe. So Hudson-Odoi was second behind Smith Rowe. Brereton Diaz has gone right to the top, just because I think he's going to start and he is on penalties, playing for a decent team in my opinion. So so this is how I rank them. If you are going to have a Haaland and a Salah draft, I think you probably need one of these, maybe 2 of these. And if you can look at maybe picking at least one of these out of this list, I prefer the 5.5 million mids as opposed to the 5 million mids. The only one I'd even consider is Morgan Rogers, but I think these 5.5 million mids offer better value. I think they're going to start more regular, I think they'll get more goal returns, and I just like them more. I'm going to say, like, it's just in my opinion, isn't it? Right, mates, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. So today we looked at some 5 million midfielders and some 5.5 million midfielders. Tried to assess them, go through them one by one, give some pros, give some cons. I think if you are looking for that highly priced kind of assets, if you're looking at the likes of Haaland, Salah, Saka, Son, Trent, Carvalho, you need some cheap budget enablers in there somewhere, and I think I've picked out 8 decent ones. I think there's definitely some short-term options, but particularly in the 5.5 million midfielder range, I think there's going to be some real gems, some real value in here. And if you can afford that 0.5 million extra over the 5 million, I would rather go for one of these guys. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. Have a good day, peace and love.